One of the best ways to refresh the feel of a 23-year-old BMW, replace the suspension. Today we're giving my 2002 E46 a much needed suspension makeover. I'm pulling out the tired factory struts and shocks and replacing them with a full set of Bilstein B6s front and rear, courtesy of today's sponsor, FCP Euro. Whether your BMW feels floaty, worn out, or just disconnected from the road, this is one of the most satisfying upgrades you can do yourself, and they look super pretty too. I'll show you everything step by step so you can knock it out on your own driveway or even on your own day off. Let's get started. All right, let's start by getting these tires pulled off. Let's start with these rear shocks. They're a lot easier than the front struts, and we can start our day on a win and then move up to the front. Now, to get the top hardware for the shocks, we need to get into the trunk. Now, the mounts for the top of the shocks are gonna be behind these, so we're gonna need to take this lower trunk panel out, pull out the battery tray, and then start folding out this inner fabric. Take out the battery cover, give ourselves a little bit more room, grab these push pins. Right here, you got this manual fuel door release, so I'm gonna try to pop the clip off the back side here with a pocket screwdriver. See if you can release, there we go, release that. Now we should be able to flop and fold this whole panel over. Try to fold it out of the way. So here's the top of our shock mount, and then we have one bolt there and another bolt on the back. Same story on this side, push pin up top. Pull these out with a panel popper or a flathead. Well, you know what? We could have just took it all out as one piece, but now we know. Make a nice cut. Oh yeah, there we go. All right, let's rip out these 213s and passenger. All right, now we can rip out the lower shock hardware. We got an 18mm bolt that bolts the shock to the rear here. There you go, both shocks removed. These shocks are super clapped out. Now for today's suspension replacement, we're going with some Bilstein B6s. FCP Euro, today's sponsor, teamed up with Bilstein and they got me set up with this entire suspension kit. Let me show you everything this thing comes with. We got Lemford or strut mounts. We have Lisle shock mounts with the paper gasket. We have the bump stops. We have the dust boots. We even have the spring isolator bushings for the front struts, and these are genuine BMW. We have genuine BMW spring plates for the struts. Got more shock isolators. We got all the hardware that we need for the entire job and all these little washers that you always forget about. Now you can use part schematics and try to order all these parts for the struts and the shocks individually, but you're probably gonna forget something. And I've been using these kits from FCP Euro for my last couple jobs. I just did one on an X-Drive oil pan and it had absolutely everything that I needed, and the parts were very quality. They were either OEM or genuine BMW. So I'm super happy with these kits, and I think this is gonna be a great addition to the E46. A lot of people have been asking me, Alec, who should I use for BMW parts? My answer is always FCP Euro. They have the best parts catalog around. They have amazing prices. They have OEM, OEM Plus, and aftermarket options. They have super fast shipping with their Connecticut warehouse and now their Mesa, Arizona warehouse. And so my answer is always FCP Euro. They have great customer support, technical support, and I just wanna say a big, big thank you to FCP Euro and Bilstein for sponsoring today's video. If you guys need any BMW or European car parts, I highly suggest you go to fcpeuro.com, check out their catalog. You will not be disappointed. Now let's start tearing down these shocks, get some new ones installed. Now I like to assemble these one at a time. There's lots of little washers and stuff that can be easily forgotten, and most of the time I like to disassemble the old shock while I put the new one together. So let's get this thing unboxed. Ooh, that is so pretty. I just love the Bilstein yellow and blue. I feel like it's such a nice addition to a German vehicle. Let's get this strap popped off. And let's see what we need for hardware to make this work. Now I'm gonna do this like I usually do, which is disassembling the old shock while I assemble the new one. That way I can take everything off in order and I can make sure that all the components are there on the new one. Start by ripping off this 16mm nut for the shock mount. So we have our nut. We have our washer, which is practically melted to the old shock mount, which is a great reason as to why you should replace these with a kit. Just makes life so much easier. So we have our washer, then we have our shock mount, then we have this facing down, then we have this small washer. Then we have our deteriorated bump stop. Then our dust boot and our bump stop comes off, and there we go. That's pretty much the entire contents of the shock. And it's the little things like these little paper gaskets that will prevent squeaks when this shock settles down into the unibody. It's the little details. Look at the difference in those. Huge. All right, so now I'm gonna take my bump stop and get it fitted into the billow. I'm pretty sure the bottom edge of this bump stop fits into this groove here on the dust boot. So fit it in there like that. And then this slides down and we'll be able to slide it up and lock it into position after we put everything else on. All right, now washer goes on, then this plate upside down, then our shock mount, then our washer facing up, and then our nut. I did this out of order once and I went and test drove the car and the shock blew right through the shock mount. I don't know what I did wrong. I missed one of the washers. So that's why I always take them apart and put them back together this way. So I have the broken down old one right here and I can just follow the same steps. You can't mess it up. Let's get this nut tight, just good and tight. That's nice and impact tight. Throw our paper gasket back on. And then we can just slide our bump stop and our dust billow up into the bottom of this rounded washer. And that's where it's gonna live. Boy, that looks so pretty. These are gonna look so good on this car. I love, 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 love the yellow. Okay, let's rip this one down. Now an impact really helps here. I like to grab the shocks. I guess technically it's the piston of the shock, right? This will spin when you try to impact it out, but if you just grab it with your hand, you're able to put enough resistance on it for the nut to spin off. That's what I've always done. I do the same thing for tightening too. I just run it down with an impact until the nut doesn't move anymore and call it good. You could get some specialty tools to be able to torque this to spec and you could hold this top end here. I just don't have the right sockets for it. This is how I've always done it. It always works. Now the failure point to look out for on these shock mounts is they'll separate right here and you'll actually start to see a very large gap. So you can actually inspect it underneath the vehicle and see if these shock mounts are separating. They can start to cause play and a clunk in the rear end. Okay, so we have the nut, washer, shock mount, cup, little washer, bump stop, dust boot. Now we go little washer, big cup facing towards the bump stop. New shock mount, washer cup facing up, new nut. Good and tight. Now we can slide this dust boot down just like that and we are ready to install. Make sure you check up in the unibody and peel off the old paper gasket like I just did. The install can be a little tricky. I'm gonna do the top mounts first. I'm gonna try to reach around, get it up there, get it positioned, and then throw the nuts on top, and then we'll do the bottom after. We'll see which way works best. I got my foot holding it up. Dang it, almost had it. I was so close. I'm gonna use a floor jack this time. There we go. That made life a lot easier. Let's just do that next time. Take a floor jack and hold the bottom end up while we can get these nuts on. All right, let's run these down. 28 Newton meters. And I'll show you over here what I did to get this shock up. Just get a floor jack here behind the rear rotor. Peel off the old paper gasket, just like I did on the other side. Get that shock mount fit up in there. Just a little bit of upwards pressure to keep it nice and secure. Get those nuts on there. Kit comes with brand new nuts too, which is really nice. They are self-locking. Now for the shock to the rear trailing arm, torque spec is 100 Newton meters, but the trailing arm's sitting lower than where our shock needs to go. So we're gonna grab a floor jack, throw it under this rear trailing arm right here behind the rotor and the dust guard, right there. We're just gonna lift it up. Both sides are uniform on this too, so you can have it either way. I want this Bilstein showing towards the rear. We're gonna lift it up just until we can get our hardware in. Comes with brand new bolts. Super sweet. Love new hardware. Now before we go snug, these should technically be torqued at ride height probably. So we're gonna put our jack under, compress the rear end a good amount, and then we'll take our torque wrench. My school of thought is anything that has a rubber bushing inside needs to be torqued at ride height. Control arms, for example. Now we're gonna torque this thing to 100 foot-pounds. All right, now I can release her down slow and off to the other side we go. Little foot floor jack action again for you. Oh yeah, precision. Now let's get this thing snug, just before snug. That'll be good enough. Torquey-la torquey, 100 Newton meters. Release her down, boom. Now we get to put this trunk back together. Before we do that, let's put these little covers back on, see if they'll stay. That one should stay okay there. And this one should be able to fold back up. And that's good enough. I think I want to pre-connect these fabric pieces and then put it all in as one. I got these little push pin backers, these little 2-piece push pins for them. Yeah, if you guys could learn from me on this part, I would probably just take out the push pins, keep this entire trunk piece connected, and then just pull out this center pin and take all 3 of these pieces out together instead of disassembling them in the car. I don't do everything perfect. I tell you guys that all the time, but I like to showcase my mistakes and my learning opportunities so you guys can do it even better than me. I ain't no master tech, just a dude in his garage trying to fix some cars and share a little bit of information. And if you guys have more information that you'd like to contribute to this job in this video, be sure to drop it down in the comments. I read all of them. Reconnect our fuel door. Center plug lined up. All right, push pin. And I'm missing a push pin over here. I have been, so I'm gonna try to find one in my hardware supply, get that fixed up too. Now we can throw our trays back in. All done in the trunk. Doesn't that Bilstein yellow just look so good on this blue paint job? Looks great. All right, let's get these rear wheels back on just so we can get them out of the way and call this rear end done. It'll be nice to put it all back together. All right, time to switch gears to the front struts. I haven't done E46 front struts in a long time, so we're gonna figure this out together. I think we can do it. I think it should be easier than the E90. If you guys saw that video, that thing kicked my ass with those spring compressors. Hopefully this one goes a lot smoother. First thing I'm gonna do is detach this sway bar link up here at the strut. It should be a 16mm nut with a 17mm wrench to hold the sway bar link. No, we need some more juice. Get that sway bar link out of the way, just let it flop down. Let's go do the other side. All right, next thing I'm gonna do is pull these 3 13mm nuts for the top strut mount. Then we'll let this thing sag down and just kind of see where it lies. We might have to disconnect the control arm in order to get it out from the fender well, but we'll see. It looks like we went a little tight on our wheel speed sensor. So let's unplug that from this little bracket. Before you disconnect it like I did up in the engine bay, you should probably pull that. And then it looks like our brake line's going a little tight too. So what I should have done first was release this big 18mm bolt, the big pinch nut for the strut, because there's a bracket that holds the wheel speed sensor and the brake line into that, so we can take that out of the equation. I'm gonna go do that now. And I'll try to show you a better way on the other side, as opposed to putting all this stress on that line and this hose. So instead of disconnecting all this stuff from that bracket, you can just take this pinch bolt out. This bracket is now disconnected. It looks like we'll be able to, maybe, it barely wants to clear. Anyways, we have some nice slack here, so we're just gonna let things be. Might have to pull the thrust plate, disconnect this rear control arm bushing to get this to drop down enough. Let's see if we can get it out here. The big thing you need to watch out for when you're swinging this strut out is the studs and everything scraping up your fender well right here. My cars are kind of beaters, so I don't care about them that much. But if I was doing this on a customer's car, I'd want to be extra careful. Make sure I'm not leaving any marks. So let's just see if we can rotate this without putting too much stress on that brake hose. I might be able to just, barely lift out that stud, swing it down, barely lift out that stud, and then get this last one, barely push it down. All right, that worked. We got a little bit of tension on our brake line right there, but we're okay. And let's just gently slide that strut out. Beautiful, that came out really nice. We have a little bit of tension on there, but it's not too much. Let me grab a bungee cord. Try to bungee this knuckle up so we don't put too much stress on that brake line. Oh, y'all should do this a little different way, because I just broke my headlight level sensor. I snapped the arm off down here when I let that strut drop heavy. So I'm going to show you the right way to do things, or at least attempt to show you the right way to do things on the other side. So kind of disregard this disassembly. Now what we should do too is I'm going to take a 16 wrench. I'm going to loosen these caliper bracket bolts. I'm going to take them out completely. I need to compress the piston a little bit. Let's take this caliper off. Caliper's bungeed up, headlight level sensor. You might be able to fix it actually. Got an idea on how to fix it. Wheel speed sensor is slack. Let's go over to the other side. We'll try to do it the right way. All right, so this side, no headlight level sensor, so we don't have to worry about that. Let's start with taking off this caliper. Stick a pry bar down against the rotor, grab the lip of the pad, push out a little bit. Just need to compress the piston a touch. 16mm bolt for the caliper. One more 16. Flop that out of the way, and then let's take our 18 and break this strut pinch bolt loose. Just let the caliper hang there for a second. I think we're in okay shape. Everything's disconnected from the strut, and so now I think we can go up top and pull those 13s. Let's throw this caliper up behind here. Sort of hold it up. Now we can come down, disconnect it. Now this strut came up in the knuckle a little bit. When I first dropped that pinch bolt, we need to get those sandwiched back together so I can get this strut flop down and out. That one there, that bolt clear it, and then our last one. And I'm just kind of pushing down on the strut to try to get the angle. Now, it should slide up and out. Oh, there we go. Nice. That's a little tight there, aren't you? Let's put this guy right here. That flops nicely. Brake hose is decent, held on there. This is a little tight, but it's just from here down. That's decent, that'll stay. Now, before we tear this old strut down, check out this beautiful new strut. Now there's gonna be left and rights, so let's unbox both of these, figure out what side we got. As of right now, it looks like we have driver's side in our hand. And that's our right side there. You can see the sway bar link right there. This is actually a little bit shorter too. They don't have all this extra meat at the end. So now that we got our side, let's get the bench vise ready. We're gonna have to disassemble these struts, compress the springs, and then take the springs off of the old strut, install it onto the new strut with all the hardware. Ooh, wow. See all that play? They were smoked. I've been hearing a noise coming from my front left for a long time. Oh, wow. Yeah, this bearing's just starting to come apart. Let me give you guys a look. See, there's some pieces down there, all coming from that strut mount bearing. No good. Testing out a new spring compressor today because I just didn't really like the other one that I was using. I want to see if this one's any better. I got it from FCP Euro's website. It's Lisle. I've had Lisle tools in the past. I'm a fan of them. So let's see how this thing works. All right, so these hook assemblies are stamped left and right. This is a left. This is a right. This is a left. This is a right. Don't really know how these work yet. This U-bolt's going to go through like that. And then these nuts are going to go on. And then this one like that. I think this takes the washer. It's pretty cool. Then we'll need to lubricate this up. All right, now we do the same thing on the other side. All right, we're gonna need to split the difference. So that one, lots of intricate setup on this. Basically, you want this one as close to the top hat as you can so you can get maximum compression. This one, you want the bottom as close to the bottom spring plate as you can to get maximum compression. That way you can just get the most throw out of each spring compressor, because with BMWs, I've noticed it's pretty difficult to do these jobs with universal spring compressors. At least with my E90, the springs were very long. I didn't have enough throw to get the spring fully compressed, and it ended up fighting me so hard. It was a super big headache. If you guys want to see how to do your suspension on an E90, I just posted a video on that as well. I'll put a link for it in the description. That way you guys have a video on E46 and E90. First impression of this Lisle coil spring adapter, I'm a fan. With the U-bolt design, it felt super safe. I was able to compress it just enough to wiggle that spring left and right and safely remove the strut mount. Now when I swapped the coil spring over to the Bilsteins, I thought I had the wrong parts for a second. It has so much extra length in this strut compared to the OE design. I thought it would mess with the physics of the coil spring once I had it released, but I think it's because they use an inverted monotube design which has a bump stop integrated into the strut, and you'll see later on in the video once I release this coil spring compressor and get the struts back in the car, it's not going to cause any issues with ride height. All right, hopefully we can get some droop by pulling this control arm bushing here. God, that's tight. It's not gonna do much for me. All right, let's see if this thing goes back in. I always get my ass kicked by suspension. I don't know why. How am I gonna get you in? You're so much longer. Let's try to mount it up from the top. I don't understand how it's different height. I get it, the shock bore is longer. I think because it has a bump stop integrated. I mean, it's in. Let's get this brake caliper hanging off some hardware. I like the alignment of it. I want the strut nut right there. Snug up these strut nuts. Okay, let's snug up this pinch bolt, then we're gonna torque it to 81. Okay, I need to snug those brakes. I'm gonna go back under and put this control arm back up. Let's snug up these brakes. Sway bar link goes back up. Looks okay. I think the spring's just gonna compress a lot when this thing sits. Get in there, get in there. Okay. All right, gang, I got a friend visiting in town, so I'm gonna go catch some lunch, take him out for a good time. I'll be back out here in the morning. See you guys then.
The next day.
Day 2, we are back. Let's get this driver's side put together. But before we do that, let me just talk to you a little bit about what's been confusing me on these front struts. So here we have our new Bilstein B6. Here we have our old OE strut. Now you can see that the actual cylinder is quite longer. I think that's because they have this bump stop integrated into the strut on these Bilstein B6s. You can see that this is where it bottoms out in the bottom of the steering knuckle. This is where it bottoms out. So we lose this bottom part, and the length from here to here is pretty much the same, but the spring is so much more uncompressed when it's installed on this Bilstein B6. So I don't think it's gonna adjust the spring rate on these because the spring is still the same. It simply just has more throw because that bump stop is integrated, but the whole height difference between the two is really throwing me off. I mean, you can simply just see how uncoiled that spring is in there. I'm really curious to see how this thing's gonna sit and how it's gonna drive at ride height, because I don't really do any sort of aftermarket suspension installation, so this is quite new to me, but I'm really curious to see how this is gonna turn out. But since we got the passenger side in, we just gotta keep going. We just gotta commit to it and see what happens when we get this thing back on the ground. So let's start with disassembling this driver's side strut, get everything switched over to the B6, keep going. Okay, let's continue. So we want this up the highest position on the top that we can. Yeah, overall I do like this spring compressor. I like the fact that these U-bolts bolt on, feels pretty safe. All right, everything's lubed up real nice. This strut mount has a lot of play in it too, just like the other one. This car's gonna drive really nice with new front struts and mounts in it. I think that's tight enough. Nut, strut mount, grease washer, regular washer, spring plate, bushing, spring. Gosh, these shocks are pretty. I hope they work. Let's get our spring rubber on there, line it up. Then I want to look on here to where my old spring used to lay. 3 fingers back from this ridge, so that's what we'll go for. So right here, I'm just gonna slide this spring back till I get my 3 fingers right there. That's good. On my old spring plate, I can see the spring ended right before that ridge. So we're gonna put our spring tip right before that little ridge right there. That's gonna be our indicator. Probably reuse the old nut, okay? Then we're gonna go plate somewhere like that. Then our new washer, new strut mount with our little grease washer, closing it up like that. That goes on top. And then due to the sizing of it bumping up to a 22, I'm gonna reuse the old 21mm nut because I find it's just a little easier. Run this thing down, it's nice and tight. And let's start releasing this thing. Now we need to focus on this spring position. So that's there. There's our ridge. Get those 3 fingers there. And then this part here, this needs to slide and adjust. Get that all centered up and bitching. And then rotate this to right about there. Everything's looking pretty good and lined up. Okay, she's put back together. All right, now the other side went in very smooth by putting the strut up into the strut tower first and then sliding in the steering knuckle. So I'm gonna try that on this side too, and we might be able to do it without even having that lower control arm bushing disconnected. So let's throw this up. Oh, it came out nice. I still need to torque the other side strut tower. Still has a little movement. Okay, and next we need to get the pinch bolt. Put this caliper back on its proper side. Let's get the floor jack under here. I just want to make sure that strut's fully bottomed out. Throw the caliper bracket back on just so the caliper's not hanging. Get our pinch bolt lined up. Okay, 81 Newton meters on the pinch bolt. Snug up this brake caliper. Okay, that's nice and tight. Sway bar end link, 16mm nut. And then 24 Newton meters on all the strut tower nuts. Come on, torque wrench. Okay, this thing's finally unusable. Need to find a snap-on man. I gotta just snug them up by hand, just to be sure. We're pretty much buttoned up. I'm ready to put the thrust plate underbody panel on, but I do need to see if I can fix this headlight level sensor. See right here, the tab snapped off. So I'm gonna see if I can pull this nut off, maybe throw a flat washer on the backside and the front, see if I can do something to salvage it. If not, I'll just order a new arm. Looks pretty broken. Yeah, I think we just need to order a new one. Let's take a look at FCP Euro's website, see if we can find a replacement. All right, guys, here's the sauce. Go to realoem.com, punch in the last 7 digits of your VIN number, press search. Then you can see here it populates with E46, sedan, 330i, USA, 2002, M54. Go here to browse parts. Okay, now we're gonna go to the front axle category. Then we go to headlight, vertical aim control sensor. We'll click on that. And it looks like the part we're looking for is right here, number 1. So we click that, come down here to level sensor. Click on this number right here. You can see what's been superseded. You can even look at a picture if you want. front. Right there, that's the arm we need. It broke right there. So now we just copy and paste this part number, bring it over to FCP Euro's website, paste it in, and boom, we have an OE headlight level sensor. That one's for the rear. Looks like we need to find the front one. Nope, looks like the first one was correct, 696. Then we can even go down to fitment and then scroll down here to BMW 330i. Right here, position front, 2001 to 2002, 330i, straight 6 headlight level sensor. Add it to cart. And just like that, we got an OE part. We confirmed the fitment. We got a good price and it's gonna show up in a few days. Let's get this thrust plate reinstalled and put this thing down on the ground and see what it looks like. See if these struts are actually gonna work. Underbody panel. Set some tire pressures. 32 front, 38 rear. All right, here comes the moment of truth. How's she gonna sit? I think we need to drive it, roll it around and see, but everything's looking good so far. Yeah, those springs just really compress up top. All right, let's check fluids. This thing likes to consume oil. Curious as to what it's at. Usually have to top it off every 1 to 2,000. It's nice and full right now. Coolant looks good. Everything looks good. Time for the moment of truth. Sage, come on, let's go. Come on, load up. Good girl. All right, let's test this thing out. Now, remember, this thing's gonna need an alignment. We've done struts, we've done suspension work. Gotta get a car realigned. Struts are responsible for the camber adjustment on these. So our camber's probably changed. I don't even know if I really want them to adjust it, but we did mess with the suspension. We pulled the springs out, we put them back in. Let's see how she drives. We'll get some fuel. I'd go get some tacos, but I don't have the cash. But some tacos would do good today. Maybe we'll just go get some cash. It's eating the bumps up on the driveway real nice. Ooh, feels a little sportier. Yeah, alignment feels really good. Let's see if we can hear it on this speed bump. Yeah, so it's still there. It was there before though, so definitely wasn't caused by the struts that we put in. All in all, I'd say these feel a little slightly stiffer, even though we're retaining the factory springs. I think the shocks feel a little stiffer, a little sportier, a little more responsive, but I'm happy with that because these cars can get a little squishy over time, and an E46 factory can be pretty squishy. It's been a really fun series fixing up this E46 with you guys. If you'd like to see any future content on the channel, or if there's something I missed that you'd really like to see me cover on an E90 or an E46, drop it down in the comments below. I'm always looking for new ideas, new pieces of content we can cover together, or any information that I might know that I can pass over to you guys, or just cover any repairs. Let's finish things off with a nice highway pole. Nice. Honestly, this thing's tracking great. The strut mounts have a little pin, and those pins lock into the unibody and keep it in that factory camber position. So camber's probably not off too much. I haven't been driving this car too much. I've been daily driving the E90. So I think I'm gonna look into some control arms for this thing. Then after I do those, we'll get it aligned. But if you're doing any suspension work, control arms, springs, struts, anything like that, tie rods especially steering work, you gotta go get your vehicle aligned afterwards. It's gonna be all types of squirrely. Yeah, all in all, very, very happy with these Bilstein B6s so far. I'm over the moon about the Bilstein B4s on my E90. Hey, it's taco time.
A few minutes later.
We secured the bag. We got 3 asada crispy tacos. Let's go.
That's why he's the GOAT!
Going Crispies today. Living on a gravel driveway too, you can really notice the difference just pulling back into the house. Super nice. I'd call that a success, guys. These struts had me in the first half, not gonna lie. The installation, the replacement went really smooth, but the height difference with that coil uncompressed was just really throwing me off. But all in all, great success. So in total, everything that was replaced: the front struts, the bump stops, the boots, the spring isolators, the grease washer, the regular flat washer, the strut mounts, the pinch bolts, the 3 13mm nuts for the top of the struts, the spring plates, and the top spring isolators. We also replaced our rear shocks with rear bump stops and dust boots, new washers, new nuts, new hardware, new shock mounts, and new bolts for the rear shocks. I'd say all in all, that is a super bitchin' kit. It comes with everything that you need. You're not gonna miss any little bolts, washers, nuts, mounts, gaskets. It was super complete at a solid price, and the result is honestly really solid. I'm super happy with these Bilstein B6s. I got the B4s on this thing right here, and I think I'm gonna keep going with these Bilstein B4 and B6 kits. It's just too easy to do suspension. You're not gonna forget anything. If y'all are new here, my name is Alec. This little puppy is Sage, and we are Day Off DIY. I try to teach BMW owners how to fix their own cars by going through DIY repairs on my own BMWs. So if this is your type of content, don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment down below. Give me some recommendations. Let me know what your favorite part of the video was. Big shout out to FCP Euro and Bilstein for helping me out with the suspension and sponsoring today's video. I hope you enjoyed, or I hope you learned something new. And as always, folks, I'll see you on my next day off. Cheers.